Fanalysis combines the analytics used in fantasy football with the latest metrics of the betting trends to find the top plays each week. We are now joined by the lead betting analyst from Pickswise, Jared Smith. First round of the playoffs. It's wild card weekend. And let's start with the first playoff game of the season. Cincinnati is a 5.5-point home favorite to the Raiders. The Raiders won their way in with that 4-game winning streak, but Cincinnati has certainly shown a lot more versatility on the offensive side. So how do you see this right now?
Yeah, this is one of those games where one drought has to end. The Bengals actually have the longest drought in the history of the NFL, or in the current history of the NFL. They've lost 8 straight playoff games. They haven't won one since 1991. Most of the current players on this Bengals team, including their quarterback Joe Burrow, weren't even alive the last time the Bengals won a playoff game. For the Raiders, it's been a long time, too, since that Super Bowl run in the early 2000s. So it's been almost 20 years since Vegas, who, formerly Oakland, have won a playoff game as well. One of those droughts will end this week. And I think when you look at Cincinnati, it's about the steady improvement of their offense. They started out the year, weeks 1 through 9, 18th in expected points added, EPA per play, back half of the season, all the way up to 6th. We've seen the explosion from their offense, and we've seen this Raiders defense, especially towards the back half of the season, really struggle to defend the pass. And not only that, one of their best defensive linemen, Darius Philon, who got hurt in that game against the Chargers with a knee injury, he is their second best pass rushing defensive lineman. Next to Max Crosby. So now the Bengals offensive line can have a little more freedom, double team Crosby. I think that's going to create a little more opportunity for Joe Burrow to do his thing, and for those just dynamic weapons on the outside, Jamar Chase, probably the offensive rookie of the year, have some success. I think that's an issue for this Raiders team. And when you look at Vegas, a lot of momentum, but Steve, there is a letdown element to what happened on Sunday night. Now you have a short week to a Saturday afternoon playoff game. They had to win 4 straight games to get into the playoffs. Credit Rich Bisaccia, incredible job by him. But I can see this Raiders team on fumes, while the Bengals had to, they had the opportunity to rest a lot of their starters last week. This is setting up to me like an explosive kind of game for the Bengals offense. And while I credit Derek Carr and what they've been able to do, I think it's going to be tough for them to keep up on Sunday.
And we've talked all
Saturday.
Yeah, we've talked all year about the difference between Herbert and Joe Burrow. We're going to find out this weekend that Joe Burrow is the kind of guy that closes out games. He's the kind of guy that gets better as the game goes on. And that's what the Raiders have to find a way to stop. But I think maybe a more important point here is weather is a legitimate variable in this game. So 7 of the Vegas's 10 wins were indoors. And it feels like apparently the temperatures are going to be, feels like, in the teens. There's a 50% chance of snow. And in cold weather games, Derek Carr is 0-5 in temperatures under 35 and has neto put up more than 17 points. So
that's a great stat. That's the stat of the week.
Really tend to fall on the side of what you were saying here with the Bengals.
Yeah, and when you look at those statistics, again, what that does is it tells you that Vegas might be just a little bit more conservative on offense, because maybe they don't fully trust Derek Carr's ability to go down the field. Now, that being said, I think Derek Carr has overcome a lot of critics. And again, what the Raiders were able to accomplish this season with the Gruden situation, then Henry Ruggs, then Damon Arnett, and just the off-field issues that they have been able to kind of mentally push through, that takes a toll physically as well, because you're blocking out a lot of noise, and then all of a sudden you relax for a minute because you made the playoffs. And even if it's just a slight regression from their strong level of play over the last 4 weeks, that's an opportunity for a Bengals team, which I think physically on paper has more talent. I think the Raiders may be a little mentally tougher. But again, if there's just a little bit of a let up, I think that's where the opportunity comes for Cincinnati to take control of this game. Yeah,
and that's that versatility and that ability to run the ball at a consistent level that could push the Bengals over the top. All right. So CBS has a rare NFC matchup here. The Cowboys.
A good one, too.
The Niners are getting 3 in Dallas in this game. Cowboys had a 12-win season. Here's a nugget. They went 6-0 in the division, 6-5 against everyone else. Are they a paper tiger?
They could be. And I think defensively, they have some unbelievable pieces on the front of their defense. We've talked about Micah Parsons being a Penn State alum. He's been one of my favorite players to watch this season. Gregory, Lawrence, the combination that they're able to kind of throw at offensive lines, moving those pieces around. You don't know where Micah Parsons is going to line up. He can play. He can cover receivers. We've seen him do that. We've seen him rush the passer. We've seen him stop the run. But when you look at this Niners offense, I think they have an edge. And the reason why is they also have a versatile piece that you don't know where he's going to line up in Deebo Samuel. And they also have a quarterback, Jimmy Garoppolo. And obviously the thumb is a concern. I think he proved some doubters wrong. I think he kind of grew up a little bit too in the fourth quarter of that game against the Rams and overtime on Sunday. But what it does is it creates doubt in this Dallas defense. And this is a Dallas defense that has given up a ton of yards over the back half of the year, almost 6 yards per play since week 10. And to me, when you look at this Niners offense that is explosive, they're efficient, and they have weapons on all phases. You can run the ball with Deebo. You can throw the ball down the field with Ayuk. You can throw it down the field with Deebo. You can hit George Kittle over the middle. There's a lot of options for the Niners, and I think offensively they're going to present a lot of problems for this Dallas defense, which has been bleeding yards. And then you look at the factor on Dallas's offense, which has regressed down the stretch, especially their running game, and that's the part that really stood out to me this week. The Niners rush defense has been very strong down the stretch, and the Cowboys rushing offense has regressed throughout the year. Tony Pollard's injury situation is in flux. Ezekiel Elliott has not looked the same. I think this is an upset win for San Francisco. I think they go into Jerry's World, and I think they leave with a W.
Which is crazy that we're talking about a Cowboys offense that was regressed where they scored 51 points this last week. But you're right.
Yeah.
Zeke needs Tony Pollard out there to spell him and to give him some extra reps, or I guess to spell those reps from him as well. But when you go back to San Francisco, remember, back at the beginning of the season, we all thought that it was going to be Ayuk, and it ended up being Deebo.
Yeah.
But now Ayuk is starting to get those 100-yard games. That offense is really starting to impress me a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about some in-game betting and some philosophy here in in-game betting, because the Cowboys are the second highest scoring first quarter team in the NFL. And if you're going to be lining up on the side of the Niners, if you like the Niners, do you wait until Dallas scores to try to get the Niners at even better plus money?
It's a risky strategy because there's a chance that those trends don't hold up in the playoffs. But if you are confident and comfortable with waiting, and you're okay, because sometimes there's a FOMO element to live betting, where you miss a number and then you bet it just because you don't want to be left out in the cold completely. So if you have discipline and you say, I am going to bet the Niners at this price, if the Niners score first and I don't get that number, you put the game out of your mind and you move on. That to me is the strategy you have to have, because a lot of times, and we're all human, we're not robots. You watch the game, you say, oh, the Cowboys, they've been playing well in the first quarter, they're going to score first, and then I'm going to bet the Niners. Well, what if the Niners get the ball first and score, and the Cowboys don't even touch it? And then you're like, oh, crap, I missed the number, I need to go in. So to me, you have to be disciplined when you're betting live, and you have to set your limits and your numbers accordingly. And if you miss the number, you miss the number, and you move on to the next game.
Great advice. You got to bet responsibly here. Your 6-point teaser of the week involves the champs. Tampa is 7.5-point favorites over the Eagles. You're moving that to a .5, minus 1.5. You're taking the Niners then from +3 to +9 in Dallas. So let's focus heavily here on Tampa. What analytics are supporting your line movement in this? Because the line has kind of shifted a little bit in this one.
Yeah, and I think when you look at these games, the bigger favorites on wild card weekend tend to do well. We can discuss the Chiefs Steelers as well in terms of the odds that a team that's double-digit type underdogs winning a game in wild card weekend. That doesn't happen a whole lot. So I like the idea of moving that Bucs spread between two key numbers from 7 through 3 and then down to 1 or 2, depending on where you get this line. And really, it's the Bucs offense that I think has been a little bit under the radar. We've talked about regression. We've talked about injuries to Chris Godwin, and take nothing away from that. And of course, the Antonio Brown situation. But Tom Brady makes even the average wide receivers look good. And this Bucs offense is still humming. Since week 9, they're 3rd in EPA per play. They're 4th in explosive passes, and they're 6th in rush success rate. They're running the football well. They've got the Vaughn rookie. They've got Le'Veon Bell, who got into the mix on Sunday. There are a multitude of weapons on this Bucs offense I think can do well. Now, the Eagles, I think, do have a little bit of spice to them. They're a very volatile team. I think when you look at a team like Philly, I would be more inclined to bet them against the number because I think the back door will be open in this game. But I just don't trust the combination of Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni to go on the road and win their first ever playoff game against Bruce Arians and Tom Brady. That's why I'm more comfortable moving this number down to under a field goal.
Okay, and you were talking about variables. I mean, it's supposed to be windy, 20 to 30 mile an hour winds, and that's not even the gusts. Does that make you favor an Eagles team that is certainly a run-heavy team, when you're seeing those kind of weather conditions? And anything is up in the air when you have that kind of wind gust.
Yeah, the weather obviously will impact this. Unfortunately, we can't really deduce what the weather will be until game time. So the forecast, as you know, you work with a lot of very talented meteorologists. Even the most talented meteorologists are wrong about as many times as they're right. So I will be keeping a very close eye on the weather. And because you make a good point about the Bucs rushing defense. We used to talk about the Bucs rushing defense. Teams didn't even try to run on them. Well, back half of the year, they're about middle of the pack in the analytics and success rate and EPA per play against the run. Obviously, that matters. But again, to me, I every time I find these little nuggets that go against Tampa Bay and for Philly, I go back to the Eagles are 0-6 straight up against playoff teams this year. They just don't play well when they manage up, and they are managing up to the top of the mountain, facing the defending Super Bowl champs in the wild card round in Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts' first ever playoff game. Can they win? Yes. The ceiling is very high for Philly, but I think because of their volatility, the floor is also very low. Tough to back a team to win a game when there's that much room for error on both sides.
I was going to say they just have such a small margin for error. Of course they can win. Anything can happen on any given Sunday, but we will find out. That's his best plays of the week. Make sure you check out our other segment focusing on his leans, and he'll tell you why he's not playing 2 games. For Jared Smith of Pickswise, I'm Steve Overmyer. This is Fanalysis.